Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. We're going to dive right into things today. We are exploring some incredibly profound teachings and writings that originate from the Life Yuan founder, the guide Xu Feng. Specifically, we're unpacking a deeply challenging philosophical essay he wrote titled, "Struggling Without a Clear Purpose Are All in Vain." Now, if you've ever found yourself totally caught up in the daily grind, just kind of pausing and wondering what the ultimate point of all your hard work actually is, you are going to find this explainer incredibly relevant. Xu Feng presents a framework that essentially strips away all the noise of modern life and asks us to confront the true meaning behind our daily struggles. So, let's pull back the curtain and look at exactly how he breaks down the human condition.
Right off the bat, Xu Feng doesn't really ease us into this topic. He launches directly into a Socratic line of questioning, hitting us with this: what is the true purpose of your life? It's a question that sounds so simple, right? Yet it's just incredibly difficult to answer definitively. He uses this direct approach to hook our attention and immediately shift us out of autopilot mode. Instead of just handing us some standard agenda for how to live, he forces us into this deeply contemplative space from the very first sentence.
And, he doesn't stop there. He actually accelerates this questioning, aiming right at the everyday routines we pretty much take for granted. He asks, what is the purpose of going to school over and over just to get a doctoral degree? What's the purpose of being a boss, to make money? Or holding an official position? He even points a mirror at our digital habits, which I find fascinating, asking what the purpose is of spending our days watching videos, sharing articles, and just endlessly arguing or debating with people online. Why are we constantly writing, publishing, and striving in all these daily arenas? What is the actual end goal here?
Now, what's really interesting is how Xu Feng scales this questioning up. He goes from our personal, daily routines all the way up to massive geopolitical conflicts. He asks about the purpose behind supporting Putin, upholding Ukraine's territorial integrity, or advocating for the liberation of Taiwan. Now, I want to be absolutely clear here. In his writing, Xu Feng is not taking a political stance or endorsing any side in these highly charged global issues. Not at all. Rather, he's using them as prime examples of the fierce, macro-level struggles that humanity engages in. He's asking a much broader philosophical question. Why do we pour so much of our collective energy into advocating for or defending these massive global causes?
So the crucial takeaway here is that we are constantly fighting for something. Xu Feng outlines the sheer volume of societal conditioning we operate under every single day. We strive to earn billions of dollars, we dedicate our lives to upholding family, national, religious, or political party interests, we passionately advocate for market economies, reform, democracy, human rights, capitalism, or socialism. We even fight tooth and nail to maintain traditional culture, ancestral dignity, or universal values. These are the endless pursuits that completely define modern society. But looking at all of this relentless activity, Xu Feng asks a single devastating follow-up question.
And then what? You go to school repeatedly, you finally get that doctoral degree you worked so hard for, and then what? You become incredibly famous, and then what? You continuously make money, you eventually amass billions of dollars, and then what? He repeats this to expose the perceived emptiness of these pursuits. If the goal is just to achieve the thing, well, what happens the day after you achieve it? By slowing down and asking, and then what, Xu Feng really forces us to realize that most of our goals are actually just stepping stones to nowhere if we don't have a foundational reason for existing in the first place.
Which brings us to this incredibly powerful quote, which is essentially Xu Feng's core diagnosis of the modern human condition. He writes, "Forgetting the purpose of life, all our words and actions are just aimless struggles, all in vain." This is the core problem, right here. We are caught in a grand illusion of struggle. We think that because we're busy, because we're fighting for a cause, or making money, or arguing on the internet, that we're living purposefully. But Xu Feng argues that without a defined ultimate purpose, it is all just blind, exhausting motion.
So, let's look at Section 1, the core purpose, Xu Feng's antidote to the aimless struggle.
So if everything we typically do is just an aimless struggle, what exactly is the way out? Well, here is Xu Feng's clear, definitive answer. According to his experience, the true purpose of life rests on 4 simple pillars: to live happily, joyfully, freely, and fulfillingly. That's literally it. He argues that when you revolve your entire life around this specific purpose, life suddenly becomes simple. It becomes enjoyable, relaxed, and natural. The endless, exhausting friction of fighting for abstract causes just disappears, and it's replaced by a grounded focus on these 4 states of being.
And listen, this isn't just some theoretical concept for him. 30. This number represents the years Xu Feng claims to have personally lived comfortably and freely by focusing solely on this exact 4-pillar purpose. He actually offers his own life as the empirical evidence for his entire philosophy. He offers his own life as proof of what this looks like in practice. He notes that for at least 20-some years of those 3 decades, he's resided in a large villa and owned his own car, living entirely comfortably. But the most striking outcome for me is his realization at the bottom here. By stripping away all the aimless struggles of society, he discovered that, in his own words, apart from playing games, there is nothing significant to be done in life. It's such a radical statement of letting go. When you're truly free and fulfilled, life just becomes a joyous game rather than a stressful battlefield.
Moving right along to Section 2, Redefining Morality and Value, Evaluating the World Through Joy.
Now that we understand his core thesis, let's see how Shuifeng applies this as a really strict lens to evaluate our everyday concepts. Let's start with morality. Traditionally, we view morality as this incredibly complex, remarkable discipline, heavily governed by strict societal or religious rules, right? But Shuifeng completely upends this. He states that he actually used to believe that too, but later discovered a radically simple framework. Anything that brings people happiness, joy, freedom, and fulfillment is moral. Anything that doesn't is immoral. Think about how elegantly simple that is. It completely bypasses complex ethical debates and reduces the value of absolutely any action strictly to its output of joy and freedom.
And he doesn't stop at personal morality. He applies this test to the very foundations of human society. He completely strips away the inherent assumed value of massive institutions. For a nation, he asks, if it doesn't enable its people to live happy, joyful, free, and fulfilling lives, what use is it? For marriage and family, what use are they if they don't enable a fulfilling life? Even for constitutions, laws, regulations, and precepts, what is their point if they don't produce a free and joyful life? He is fundamentally challenging us to ask, what's the point of upholding or defending any of these systems if they fail this basic human joy test?
And that brings us to Section 3, the ultimate cosmic journey beyond earthly happiness. Now you might be thinking at this point, is earthly happiness all there is? Well, Shuifeng's philosophy actually scales up dramatically into the spiritual realm. Notice the logical progression here. Step 1 is absolutely mandatory. You first have to achieve a life of happiness, joy, freedom, and fulfillment here and now. Shuifeng argues that only when a person achieves this state do they naturally begin to contemplate the afterlife, moving to step 2. Once you aren't distracted by all those aimless worldly struggles we talked about, exploring the mysteries of life, time, and space becomes your new elevated main purpose. And as you discover these mysteries in step 3, it further enhances the depth and breadth of your happiness, allowing you, as he describes in step 4, to live the life of a celestial being.
This progression perfectly mirrors his own philosophical evolution, too. He notes that in a previous state of what he calls partial enlightenment, he viewed life as an empty dream, kind of this slightly nihilistic view that it should just be fully experienced without regrets before it inevitably ends. But his current worldview has blossomed into something incredibly expansive. He now sees life as a boundless journey aimed at benefiting sentient beings, with the ultimate trajectory of reaching the heavens. By securing joy and freedom first, the journey just naturally expands outward into the cosmos.
So, we're going to conclude the explainer today by turning Shuifeng's Socratic questioning directly back onto you. We've seen how he dissects the total exhaustion of modern pursuits, how he redefines morality around joy, and maps out this amazing journey from earthly freedom to cosmic exploration. But the question that remains is personal. If you stopped your aimless struggles today, if you literally just put down the endless debates, the blind pursuit of status, all those arbitrary goals, what would be your ultimate purpose? It's a really challenging thought to leave you with, but perhaps, exactly as Shuifeng suggests, it's the only question that truly matters. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring.